Okay, let's just picture it. Right now, you hear a sound. A kid laughing outside. A baby crying in another room. The normal soundtrack of the world. Now hit mute on that. Not just for a second. Forever. From this moment forward, a switch flips inside every single person on the planet. No more pregnancies. No more babies. The human race just stops making more of itself. No drama, no warning. Just silence. Can you imagine that silence? The very first thing you'd notice isn't a sound, but the lack of one. It starts in the quietest places. The waiting rooms at fertility clinics. They're already quiet, right? But this is different. This is a hush that spreads. Doctors comparing notes, finding the same impossible result everywhere. A global zero. Think about the first time a social media feed, usually buzzing with baby announcements, goes a whole day without one. Then a week. That eerie silence becomes a roar in your head. The panic doesn't look like you think. It's not running and screaming. It's people frozen in their kitchens, staring at a wall, trying to process a fact so big their minds just slip off it. It's the slow, dawning horror in a parent's eyes as they look at their child and think, "You are the last piece of me that will ever exist." It's in the face of a teacher who suddenly understands that every student she will ever teach is already alive right now. The world doesn't end with a bang on day zero. It starts ending with a million small, silent cracks in the foundation of tomorrow. By the end of the first week, the news can't call it a mystery anymore. It's a fact. And it's everyone. The confirmation hits like a physical blow. The maternity wing of a hospital, that place, once a symbol of new beginnings, is now a museum exhibit nobody wanted. The last babies, those born just before the silence, become instant, heartbreaking symbols. They're the final cohort, and everyone knows it, so the quiet panic sets in. What happens to a world when the future cancels itself? You'd think the biggest threat right away would be chaos, riots, but it's not. The real danger is a paralysis of purpose. A deep, collective why bother? What's the point of a 30-year mortgage if there's no one to leave the house to? Why invest in a company? Why build anything? The entire invisible engine of society, the idea of a next generation to do the work, to buy the stuff, to carry the torch, that engine just sputters and dies. The stock market isn't just crashing. It's having an existential crisis and melting down. Companies that make anything for the future, not just toys, but educational tech, family cars, children's medicine, they're ghosts overnight. But it's deeper than stock tickers. It's the unspoken agreement we all had to keep the lights on for the people coming after us. That agreement is torn up. But here's the weird thing, the first twist. In the middle of this dread, in some pockets, you get a strange, grim kind of freedom. All that pressure, saving for college, planning for your kid's future, the endless rat race for a legacy that's no longer possible. It evaporates. For some people, that weight lifting is almost a relief. Terrible, guilty relief. You see it first in spending. Not on stuff, but on experiences. Plane tickets sell out. Restaurants are packed. It's like humanity collectively decides if this is the last act, we might as well make it a good one. Art, music, crazy projects that never made financial sense. They explode. The biggest party in history, thrown at our own funeral. But that doesn't last. A month in, the reality hardens. The world fractures into two kinds of people. The Now-ists and the legacy builders. The Now-ists dive headfirst into the present. They're the ones turning office parks into giant community gardens or art installations, living for the sheer experience of it. They're documenting everything. How to make sourdough, how to fix a carburetor, every bad joke, every folk song. They're building the most detailed scrapbook the universe has ever seen. knowing no one will ever open it. The legacy builders? They can't accept that. They're driven to leave a mark that will outlast us. They're pouring concrete obelisks in deserts, etching the sum of human knowledge onto titanium plates buried in bunkers, building structures meant to stand for 10,000 years. They're shouting, "We were here," into the void, hoping something, someday, might hear it. They become monks of a dead faith, tending archives for a congregation that will never come. And resources, oh, that's the ironic part. For the people left, for now, there's more than enough. Food, water, energy. The population is about to start a steep, irreversible decline. There's plenty to go around. The crisis isn't scarcity. It's maintenance. As the engineers, the plumbers, the power grid operators get older, who fixes the systems? You can have all the water in the world, but if the last person who knows how to run the treatment plant is 85 and her hands shake, well, you see the problem. Survival becomes less about hunting and gathering, and more about the meticulous, desperate preservation of knowledge. It's about keeping the incredibly complex machine of modern life running just a little bit longer, even as all the people who understand it are slowly leaving. The unexpected advantage we find? A kind of peace. Not happiness, but a cessation of old, stupid fights. National borders start to feel silly. What are we protecting? For whom? You see a global sharing of medical research like never before. But the research shifts completely. No more pediatric oncology. It's all about geriatrics, about extending quality of life, about making our collective final years comfortable. The goal of science changes. It's not about reaching for the stars anymore. It's about making the long, slow sunset gentle. Fast forward a year. The silence is no longer news. It's the background condition of the world. The babies born just before the cutoff are now celebrated, and also heavily protected toddlers. Their first steps are global news. Their parents live with a unique, crushing pressure and privilege. Preschools and kindergartens still function, for now, filled with this final group of children. But there's a haunting emptiness to the classrooms for the older kids. Everyone knows which grade is the last one that will ever be filled. High school seniors aren't just graduating. They're graduating from an institution that will soon have no students. The concept of childhood becomes something precious, fragile, and acutely finite. The world gets quieter, softer. Cities don't crumble. They gently contract. People move not for jobs, but for community, for comfort, to be near those who remember the same things. The economy, what's left of it, is purely a care economy. Healthcare, therapy, creating systems to tend to an aging population, and to care for those last precious children. The brutal truth we learn, year by year? As a species, we were terrified of dying. But facing it together as a whole, we find a grace we never knew we had. The pettiness, the greed, a lot of that just falls away. What's left is a profound, shared sadness, and a deep, determined kindness. We're all in the same lifeboat, and the ocean is time, and there's no land on the horizon. So we might as well be decent to each other on the way down. Decades pass. The population peaks and then begins its long, steep decline. The final cohort grows up, becomes adults, and bears the impossible weight of being the last of their kind. They are historians, caregivers, and living memories. The big projects stop. The legacy monuments stand alone under the sun, waiting. Now, human life is about curation, telling the stories. The last person who remembers the pre-silence world teaches the last of the final cohort what it was like. Passing the memories, hand to hand, like the last ember from a dying fire. And then, the time comes when the final cohort are the elders, and the world grows even quieter. What do the last people talk about? I don't think they talk about the end. I think they talk about the middle, The messy, beautiful, stupid middle. The taste of a peach. The feeling of rain on your face. A first kiss. A bad joke. They remember being alive. They take care of each other with a tenderness that would have seemed impossible back when the world was loud and crowded and we thought we had all the time in the world. The last person. What's the final act? I like to think they'd find a simple spot. Somewhere green, where the wind moves through the trees, and they'd just listen. To the birds, who will never have to fear us again. To the insects who will inherit our cities. And they wouldn't feel alone. They'd feel like a story that had finally reached its last, quiet word. They'd close their eyes, and the planet, for the first time in a long, long time, would just breathe. So what's the lesson from our final century? Maybe it's this: we thought our purpose was to keep going forever. But maybe our purpose was just to be, for a little while. To feel, to love, to create, to fail, to try. Maybe an ending gives the whole story its shape, its meaning. It makes you look around, doesn't it? At the noise, the mess, the incredible, annoying, wonderful sound of more life being made. That sound is a gift we stopped hearing. A gift with an expiration date we never like to think about. So, for you right now, with the clock always ticking in the background, what are you going to do with your piece of the story? Let me know. What's one feeling, one memory, one simple human thing you'd want to pass on if you were the last one holding it? Drop it in the comments. Thanks for thinking about the unthinkable with me. See you next time.